Okay, how's it going, everybody? So we're going to read Marx, but not Karl Marx. We're going to read Jenny Marx today, who is, Karl Marx's daughter. We're going to read some articles she has here, articles on the Irish question. Let's see, this first article, how many are there? There's 8 of them. So we're going to read all 8 of these, and but we'll get into this first one here. Let's see, these articles are written by Marx's daughter Jenny for the French Republican newspaper Marseille, and dealt with the questions raised in Marx's article, quote, "The English Government and the Fenian Prisoners," end quote. The third article was written together with Marx. All except the second article were signed J. Williams. Okay. So let's go ahead and get into this. This is the first article on the Irish question. Let's see, this is written London, February 27th, 1870. The Marseille for February 18th quotes an article from the Daily News in which the English paper gives information to the French press concerning the election of O'Donovan Rossa. Since this information is somewhat confused and since partial explanations only serve to throw a false light on the things which they are claiming to elucidate, I should be grateful if you would kindly publish my comments on the article in question. Firstly, the Daily News states that O'Donovan was sentenced by a jury, but it admits to add that in Ireland the juries are composed of minions, more or less directly nominated by the government. Then, in speaking with righteous horror of the felony of treason, the false liberals of the Daily News admit to say that this new category in the English Penal Code was expressly invented to identify the Irish patriots with the vilest of criminals. Let us take the case of O'Donovan Rossa. He was one of the editors of the Irish People. Like most of the Fenians, he was sentenced for having written so-called seditious articles. Consequently, the Marseillais was not wrong in drawing an analogy between Rochefort and Rossa. Why does the Daily News, which aims at keeping France informed about the Fenian prisoners, remain silent about the appalling treatment which they have received? I trust you will allow me to make up for this prudent silence. Some time ago, O'Donovan was put in a dark cell with hands tied behind his back. His handcuffs were not removed night or day, so that he was forced to lick his food, gruel made with water, lying on the ground. Mr. Piggott, editor of The Irishman, learned about this from Rossa, who described it to him in the presence of the prison governor and another witness, and published the information in his newspaper, encouraging Mr. Moore, one of the Irish members of the House of Commons, to request a parliamentary inquiry into what goes on in the prisons. The government strongly opposed this request. Thus, Mr. Moore's motion was rejected by 171 votes to 36, a worthy supplement to the voting which crushed the right to suffrage. And this took place during the ministry of the sanctimonious Gladstone. As you can see, the great liberal leader knows how to mock humanity and justice. There are also Judaists who do not wear glasses. Here's another case which also does England credit. O'Leary, a Fenian prisoner, aged between 60 and 70, was put on bread and water for 3 weeks because the reader of the Marseillais would never guess why. Because Leary called himself a pagan and refused to say he was Protestant, Presbyterian, Catholic, or Quaker. He was given the choice of one of these religions or bread and water. Of these 5 evils, O'Leary, or Pagan O'Leary, as he is called, chose the one that he considered the least, bread and water. A few days ago, after examining the body of a Fenian who died at Spike Island Prison, the coroner expressed his very strong disapproval of the manner in which the deceased man had been treated. Last Saturday, a young Irishman called Gunner Hood left prison after serving 4 years. At the age of 19, he had joined the English Army and served England and Canada. He was taken before a military tribunal in 1866 for having written seditious articles and sentenced to 2 years hard labor. When the sentence was pronounced, Hood took his cap and threw it into the air, shouting, quote, "Long live the Irish Republic," end quote. This impassioned cry cost him dear. He was sentenced an extra 2 years in prison and 50 strokes for good measure. This was carried out in the most atrocious manner. Hood was attached to a plow, and 2 strapping blacksmiths were armed with cat-o'-nine tails. There is no equivalent term in French for the English knout. Only the Russians and English know what is meant by this. Like draws the like. Mr. Carey, a journalist, is kept at present in the part of the prison intended for the insane. The terrible silence and the other forms of torture to which he has been subjected, having turned him into a mass of living flesh deprived of all reason. The Fenian, Colonel Burke, a man who has distinguished himself not only by his service in the American army, but also as a writer and painter, has also been reduced to a pitiful state in which he can no longer recognize his closest relatives. I could add many more names to this list of Irish martyrs. Suffice it to say, since 1866, when there was a raid on the Irish people's offices, 20 Fenians have died or gone mad in the prisons of humanitarian England. Okay. Yeah, so that was the first of the articles on the Irish question written by Jenny Marx in 1870. So yeah, we'll get back into this, but yeah, well, thank y'all for tuning in. This is, Marxist off Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, Tumblr, Medium, not TikTok, Tumblr, Medium, YouTube. Hit me up on all those. Marxist off. Y'all have a great day, and